Hello, welcome to Nerd Talk. All nerds all talk and sometimes consensual. This is the show where I take pop and geek culture and give it a good sing to. It's my first show, I promised I wouldn't do so many rape allegories. Basically, this is the show where I'm going to take movies, TV, video games, comics, all the sweaty recesses of nerd culture, give my insight and opinion. I'll be talking about stuff and discussing things, but more often than not, I'll be talking about things that annoy me. Because this is the internet, my friends. That's what we do. I remember the old Spider-Man films fondly. It was good, goofy fun, especially when I was younger, and Spider-Man was pretty much my god. He was the one that got me into superheroes and comics in the first place, so I guess you could say he was like my gateway drug, and the Raimi films were my dealer. Until Spider-Man 3 came out and he started selling me tainted shit. Metaphors, people, metaphors fucking everywhere! Now, I could go on for hours about why Spider-Man 3 is so awful. Firstly, taking Venom, one of the most terrifying and iconic villains of the Marvel Universe, and giving most of his screen time to Sandman. Villain so B-list, they may as well have just made him Shocker, and it would have made no difference to the plot of the film. Oh, and lest we forget the amazing Emo Peter and his fabulous deleted number from Chicago. Thanks. But countless YouTubers and critics have already talked about that, and if I said anything about it, then I'd be adding nothing new. But there is one point that nobody seems to make, not fans of the comics or even movie fans, which really saddens me. Honestly, because I think this is one of the worst things in the movie. So, I thought that would make a good discussion point, slash something to rant about. What did they do to Mary Jane? Okay, it's not just Spider-Man 3 to blame here. She's been bad for the whole series. She was bland, pointless, just there to fill the role as a generic love interest. Classic damsel in distress. Spider-Man needs someone to save, he saves Mary Jane. Now, normally that's okay. If it keeps you interested, fine. That doesn't matter that much. But, I'm sorry, they had to do it 3 times in 3 movies. I felt like I was watching Super fucking Mario. But what about the romance between Mary Jane and Peter Parker, I hear you ask? Because I can hear you through your computer. These are the things you need to know about me. Well, honestly, it's not so bad. In fact, it's pretty good. It's a good romance. They really pushed the idea of Peter's guilt for not telling her he's Spider-Man, and his regret for not telling her how he really feels, because of his own insecurity, and his own fear of himself and people who could hurt her. The romance also had its own storyline and succinct plot. It began with us as an audience, feeling sympathetic for Peter and his unreturned love, and we go on a journey of the two of them getting closer and begin to love each other until the emotional ending, where Peter has to turn her down for her own safety. You know, not because she tried to make out with him next to his uncle's grave or anything. Then the second film gets more interesting because you see Spider-Man tearing the two apart from each other. You really feel bad and you want it to work out. There's a great climactic feel to the relationship. Which of course culminates in Mary Jane finally learning who he is and leaving Space Douche the Altar to see Peter and tell him she wants to be with him no matter what happens.
Had to do what I had to do.
Mary Jane.
Oh yeah, it worked. Yeah, it's your classic, something comes between the two characters' romances, only this time it happens to be a deadly octopus man, but hey, when it works, and I can't think of anything really bad to say about it. It had an arc, it kept you emotionally invested, it made you care about them, and it gave the story a different element. It was a good romance, with a beginning, middle, and... Oh, yeah. That wasn't the end! No, lucky us, we get to watch them deal with the most boring relationship troubles ever.
Why would I want to push you away? I love you.
No, the romance was done. It was finished. It adds nothing to show them having petty arguments and pointless relationship troubles after she declared emotionally at the end of the second film that she can't live without Peter. Oh yeah, she can handle octopus men of death, but she can't handle Spider-Man kissing some slut for a crowd? Even though she's an actress. She probably kisses someone for a crowd every night. If there was a real problem these two had to face, that would have been fine. But we've already invested all our emotions into the romance by the time 2 ended. Don't expect us to keep caring about these two when the relationship has become this subpar! Now I feel that the makers of 3 tried to make Mary Jane kind of depressed and problem-filled, or maybe show some of the pitfalls of being in a relationship with a superhero, like the whole fame aspect that you bring in. But at the end of 2, you kind of feel like you're owed something a bit bigger. It's a bad point when you welcome him hitting her at the end, just so something will happen. And they focus way too much time on her boring acting career anyway, and they just made it fail by putting every other scene that she's in just full of her whining. Here's some examples of some of her riveting dialogue. It's not about you. Try to understand how I feel. That's our kiss. Do you want to push me away? They hated it. They hated me. Do you see why they hate you, Mary Jane? It just made her come off as selfish, whiny, and just plain unlikable. She expects Peter to focus on all of her boring-ass problems when he quite clearly has some quite bigger problems of his own. Did you not see the Octopus Man? Now, if any of you think that I'm being chauvinistic here, or that I think that because she's a woman or because she's a girlfriend, she should be caring completely about all his problems, no, that's not what I'm saying. It's because she's Mary Jane she should care about all his problems. There's a reason why Mary Jane has stuck around in the public consciousness for so long. She's the Lois Lane of Marvel. Even people who have never seen the Spider-Man comic or Spider-Man movie will know who Mary Jane is. She's Spider-Man's girlfriend. And mainly because in the comics she was such a great character. She was ballsy, she was gutsy, she was an independent woman and not afraid to speak her emotions and her mind. But she also had an emotional and caring side that was definitely impossible not to find endearing about her. A great example of this is after Peter's old love Gwen Stacy's death. Peter thinks Mary Jane doesn't care about either of them, tells her to leave, but she's going nowhere. She barely knows Peter at this point, but she knows he can't face her alone. This is the Mary Jane people know about and love. I mean, Gwen Stacy never had this level of fame Mary Jane had. And returning to my point, Mary Jane is supposed to be caring, empathetic, and strong. You can't just make a woman ginger and call her Mary Jane. I think I'll put that on a t-shirt. Now, it could be argued that Peter doesn't really have anything wrong with him at the beginning of Spider-Man 3. He's mainly happy, he doesn't need much emotional support, but no, I'm sorry, that's no excuse. Mary Jane knows the turmoil Peter's been through in his life, and she still won't accept him thinking about his own happiness for a change. Oh, sure, you'll be with him when bad things are happening to him, when people are punching him, or when he's suffering, but you won't be with him when he's happy for once in his miserable, guilt-ridden life? Fuck that! And let's not forget, this is the film where he has to fight Harry, his only childhood friend who thought he killed his father. Peter has to run scared from his best friend, fight him, nearly kill him, and give him amnesia. Mary Jane has to know this would be a traumatic experience for anyone. Oh, but what am I thinking? Mary Jane had her own problems she had to deal with as well. Let's see here. She had to deal with the huge problem of someone thinking that her voice is too quiet. But what does Mary Jane do to help him and console him through what must surely be a difficult time in his life? Make out with Harry! I mean, yeah, of course. So, what have we learned in Nerd Talk today? That even when everything has possibly been said about it, there's always room to hate. And congratulations, you are the first ones to accept my worldview. You are just the beginning. I also hope this has made you appreciate the character of Mary Jane and made you think about the movie a bit differently. Because, yeah, this is probably the worst thing in the film. Worse than that. Worse than that.
Now take all this.
One of the worst things in the film. I'm Harvey Westwood, and that's how we roll in the Shire.